Black wealth is increasing. We need that increase to show up in our politics.
We definitely do. And to your point about AIPAC, I think that AIPAC does do a great job of pushing its narrative about what it's doing. I know it's taken a lot of slack about what's going on because, like we were talking about earlier, what's going on in Gaza and places like that. In that, how do you, as an organization, balance that? What's your philosophy on talking to donors who really want to hesitate about giving money to your Black PAC like yourself?
I think people have interests, right? And so how do you negotiate those interests to align with yours? I think people want to win-win, right? They want to see their issue or their concerns be addressed. And at the same time, if our issues can be addressed, I think that's a win-win, and it's an opportunity, right, to work together. So the thing I'm trying to get across to Black people, though, is it's always a win-win when it comes to Black wealth and Black candidates, in my opinion, right? I think the more Black candidates we have in office, the more Black wealth we can create.
That's correct.
The more Black opportunities we can create. And so I think that's always a win-win. But there is always an opportunity, I think, to find that place where we can get what we need done by getting our people in office. We're going to back certain issues that align with Black interests that also may coalesce with other communities' issues and interests, right? Again, I think about the Black and Jewish community during the Civil Rights Movement. They were in lockstep for most of the Civil Rights Movement. I think recently there have been some efforts to rekindle that partnership, but it hasn't been as strong as it was previously. Again, due to some issues that we're seeing happen with the Palestinian community, obviously, which again has been horrendous, right? We as Black people, we got to be honest of what we've seen come out of that situation has been a problem. Do I believe that Israel should exist and that Jews should obviously have a Jewish state? I do believe that. But at the same time, we don't want to negotiate humanity for that conversation. Right. And so, and again, I think most Jews would agree with that statement. So there's a moment where you have to be also honest, right, with the donor base.
I'm glad you mentioned
in the community, right?
I'm really glad you went there because that's that part.
You got to be honest.
You got to be honest. The interview I had before was with Rhonda Crowder, and it was about Black media, journalists, and we was getting in that, and we talked about how Roland Martin always say, you can't be Black media and scared to stand up for Black people.
Exactly.
And so with that, I know you're in a very precarious situation because you're trying to raise that money from these people, right. But you gotta, like you say, at some point, I gotta tell the truth.
Oh, we're not gonna hold our tongue.
Yeah, that's what
to take resources, but at the same time, our job at Collective PAC, we are a platform, right? We are bringing donors in, we are bringing candidates in.
Right.
Ultimately, we want the candidates to get into office.
That's correct.
And they have to make decisions on their own, right? We can provide them with the information. We can provide them with our perspective. Right. But at some point, that candidate has to make that call on whatever that issue is.
That's correct.
It is the job of our community, right, to voice our concerns and our agenda, just like any other community is. Now, if we give you money from Collective PAC, you get in office and you act crazy on our issues, we will replace you. That's very cut and dry. But at the same time, I think other communities, again, have that same opportunity to engage a candidate on their perspective, on their issue, right? That is their opportunity to do so. But I think all of us could agree right now, we need more Black leaders in public office, right? We need more diversity in our decision-making processes. I think what we're seeing right now is not very reflective of where the country is when it comes to their leadership. And so that's something I think we can all agree on. But again, I will say we are never going to it's harming Black people or harming any people that we think needs to be addressed.